All right. Hey guys, it's two guys T and D, and we're going to be doing some world building for my up and coming campaign, which has some awesome players.
All right. Hello, everybody.
Yeah, so we're going to make a town, which hopefully you guys will be able to use the steps that we sort of go through to making a functional, living, breathing town. That's believable, which I think is important. Oh, we've lost a Lionel. He's back.
Sorry, I wanted some light.
That's fair enough. Yeah, I don't have the option right now. It's 7 and it's dark, so I guess I'm gonna just look very pink for the video. All right. So the town we're gonna be making is on the frontier of what would be the Old West, but in my world, it's the Old East. Just because of the way everything worked out in my world building. So the first thing, I think the most important thing about towns is, why is a town where it is? What is the reason to make, settle people here?
So, and I think, and we talked a little bit before we started the broadcast, but so one of the questions that I think, first question I would always ask is, like, where does it lie? Is it lie like at the end of some stagecoach run, train, dirigible? How do you get there? And how far out into the frontier do you envision it?
So this town is on the very, very, very edge of civilization. So, maybe 20 years before the campaign starts, they started building a train track that was going into the frontier because they wanted to make a trade route to the other side of the world, basically. And they just decided to build a massive, long train track. So this is the last real stop on this train track before they had to stop building it. And the train track ends at the bottom of a canyon. So it's just, train track, drop. So, because they built a bridge, but it was destroyed. So they just gave up, left. And then these people are just left behind now. So, yeah, it's on the very edge of civilization. It's pretty much in hostile territory now. The army have left. A load of the workers have left. Just whoever's decided to stay and look for hidden riches. So I think this town would only really be surviving now if it had some form of important resource, like gold or something like that, which is the classic, gold rush prospector going out into the wilderness and panning for gold in a river or something.
Right. So how about this? I not knowing a lot about your world, Harry. So yeah, gold is kind of that cliche, Old West thing, but maybe there's some other valuable resource out there that's either mined or whatnot.
Well, I mean, one of the obvious ones, because my world is steampunk, would be coal.
Right.
Maybe there's a massive deposit of coal.
And maybe that's what's keeping the few people there, maybe a company or something, because there's a coal mine. So there would be whatever security they would have to keep that safe. And maybe, but why would they well, I guess that kind of, the question I have then is, why would they abandon it if it had something valuable? Wouldn't it be?
Well, I would say it's just so far away from the center of power. It just costs far too much money and resources to go and mine that coal with an army defending it. It just costs far too much. So they just let these people come and here whenever they want, mine it and sell it. That's, an easier way for the government to just get the coal. It's just to buy it rather than mine it out themselves. It's just far too costly.
Cool. So so this was once a larger town, but through just the hard living and the elements and other violent factions,
Yep.
it collapsed and now it's kind of starting to resurge?
Yeah.
Is that what you're
So
thinking?
the area that was the town remained empty for around 100 years or so, maybe 100 to 150 years. Civilization abandoned everything, left, and they started coming back 20 or so years ago. And now this town is smaller but rebuilding itself. And so when these people came back, all they found left of this original town was tombstones from the original church. But that's no buildings, no church, just tombstones.
Hmm.
So that's why the town is, at least for the moment, until I think of anything better or cooler, or
So
it's called Tombstone.
right. So how from that ending event from the original town, which I'm assuming the town originally wasn't called Tombstone. This is kind of maybe the name that it's called now,
Yeah.
which I really dig. But so how long have folks been resettling Tombstone, and what sort of buildings would it see? I'm thinking I've been watching lately. I've been watching a lot of Hell on Wheels,
I've just
which
recently started. I watched the first episode the other week.
I would definitely recommend because there is a lot of really good uh, potential plot type stuff in there. But so when you watch that show, as they're kind of building this railroad, these like little towns pop up, and what you see is fixed buildings,
Yeah.
wood structures with, and then you see these kind of these tented, like with a wooden floor, but
Yeah.
like the walls are tent. So maybe Tombstone would be a mixture of that. So there would be like these like a telegraph office or something like that, or maybe a station for the train that would be fixed. But then you would have maybe a hotel or something, or
Yeah, so it's slowly but surely rebuilding itself back up to be a proper town.
And let's be honest, Harry, you got to have a whorehouse. A whorehouse has to be
That's got to be
one
there,
of
isn't it?
one of the first structures built, because these men coming in, either mining or building railroad or whatnot, would, and I don't mean to offend anybody by that, but so those are, I think, the two most important buildings would be a tavern and a whorehouse. So
Saloon.
Sorry, yes, we
I'm
must
gonna
use the right
terminology.
right
Come on.
vernacular for a Western game or an Eastern game. Sorry. Yeah.
So I think the next important thing on the list is where does this town get water? Where does it get food?
Right.
So usually, I think in the Old West, it was either rivers or just groundwater was the most reliable source. So just having a well in town, maybe those classic sort of big water towers for putting water in the back into the steam trains or whatever. I think groundwater is the source.
So yeah, I'm thinking exactly that, Harry. I think it'd probably be a combination of all of those. You'd probably trap a lot of rainwater when it did rain, but it probably doesn't rain much, but you would trap whatever rainwater you did. You would probably store your water in some sort of like cistern or something that would limit it evaporating. So you would want it covered, and you'd want it cool so that when it did evaporate, it would condense and drop back into the cistern. So that's probably what they do. So they'd probably be like maybe some wells, maybe some better off folks would have their own wells. And I'm wondering, so you mentioned something about a canyon or something. I wonder if maybe water runs through that canyon.
It does, but I wouldn't go near it. No spoilers.
Yes. All right.
I think the canyon would be several miles away.
Okay.
This was, they decided maybe not build a town near the canyon.
So this town is situated on one of the sides of this canyon, and the bridge that used to traverse it is been destroyed.
Yes. Yeah, the bridge fell apart for whatever reason. And this town is probably like 5 miles away.
Oh, okay.
Within like a day's a good, leisurely stroll over. Maybe a little bit further.
So do you see things like, I mean, I'm trying to think all like, like I'm really big on Western movies. Are there farmers? I mean, are there folks that raise cattle, sheep,
Yeah, normally with a town in the classic sort of Western European fantasy. You have a town. Surrounding the town would be villages and farms, and it would be certainly a lot more land than the town takes up itself. Would just be farms. So I think places like New Mexico, you can't really grow food all that well. So you mainly have livestock like cattle or maybe sheep. Probably cattle though.
Yeah, typically anything you would grow would be just enough for yourself,
Yeah.
Or your family, because you wouldn't be able to grow in larger swaths like other more arid places.
Yeah, so cattle I think would be the main thing. Have a couple of ranches around. I mean, so do you think the town should be, maybe 150 people? Something
Yeah.
not stupidly big, but not tiny either.
And are you thinking too? I'm thinking too, based on how you're describing it, Harry. So it probably wouldn't be much in the way of family oriented. It would probably be more like when you talk about 150 people, it'd be probably like work or service type people.
I
People that
think
are
it would
there,
be, miners and their families,
right?
a barman, the saloon owner, or whatever, general store shopkeeper guy, some whores to just use that word for the description of what they are. Maybe a mayor or something like that.
Mm.
And obviously a sheriff or some kind of lawman. Other than that, it's mostly just miners and families, people that do work. Not many children, I'd expect. Mostly just working men and women.
So in like a Western movie, something like this, so they would have like the territories before in the United States, before something was recognized as a state, it was often referred to as a territory. So this would probably be in something like in a territory or whatnot in your world.
Not even not even close to a nation state. No nation other than there's an empire off to the east. West, which is like the main sort of analog to the British Empire. They would be the ones that would lay the claim on this land because they tried colonizing it first, but they've sort of abandoned it. They don't care too much about the people inside it. They're not interested in it. So I wouldn't really use the US sort of analogy here. It's sort of just unclaimed land. No one wants it.
So when you talk about like a mayor or a lawman, those are so it's very.
It's within their own sort of
really
town.
Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're not really answering to some other greater authority.
No.
Right.
Maybe there might be some form of like bigger city states further, in towards the empire. There might be some, higher authority there, but these guys don't really answer anything. They're too far away from civilization to really sort of care. It's not worth people going out and enforcing it.
So what do you see as geography? Because I think one of the most important things would be like looking at what is the topography of the topography. I'm not sure if that's the right word. Of the land. I mean, is it kind of rolling grasslands, that would give plenty of pasture for cows to feed? Or are you thinking like you had mentioned, like Nevada, Arizona, where it's a lot more arid and,
so
even parts of like Texas where
I'm thinking the part where this town is, the reason why they didn't settle nearer the canyon is because this area's got more sort of pasture land. And then the further you go east, the more arid and badlands you get. So the drier it gets, the further you go east. This is sort of on the very edge of that okay shrubland, which you can still, graze cattle on. So maybe if you went sort of 10 miles to the east or whatever, or 10 miles north or something like that, you'd get definitely dry shrubs and can't really graze cattle.
Yeah. All right.
But I think it would have to have a few sort of plateau-like hills, I think, around it for the mines. I don't think, can't remember my geology, but I think coal is more. I don't think you use quarrying, open cast mining for coal. feeling you. Well, maybe you do. That's interesting. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So maybe there's somewhere near the town. There's just this big, quite close to the town, I'd say, just a big sort of open pit where these miners go every day, spend the day mining coal, and then putting it onto carts and getting it to the train station and getting ready to pile it onto a train to be taken away.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
So the town definitely needs a train station which is able to turn around the engine. It would just be a single track, I'd imagine. So you need some form of like turntable or something like that to turn it around.
Yeah.
But so other than miners and their families and a saloon and a general store, what else do you think would be here?
Well, so the mining, is it like a company, or is it more loosely, is it loosely regulated? Like who has their fingers in that? I mean,
I think it would be a company.
So they would have some sort of headquarters.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think we need to talk about communication. So how would one communicate from here? Because this is in a steampunk world. So we have this. So we have steam power running and operating a lot of things, but we also have magic.
Yeah, the magic does the is mostly the producer of electricity. They haven't quite got to the stage of using coal to power turbines to generate electricity. They haven't quite got there yet, so they use magic, chain lightning into Tesla coils or something as a spell. Obviously, telegraphs were just being a thing with, I think, Morse code, that kind of thing. Perhaps there'd be, somebody whose job would be to get messages from this company. Only the company, I think, would have the communication.
Right.
I think that would be interesting.
So that would make many others in this small community very beholden to this coal mining company, because they would have access. So if I wanted to communicate to one of the more established settlements, I would have to. Yeah, I like that. I think that we need to have some sort of like a company base in there, where. So what was that? Do we want to name the company?
So I think I'm probably on the wrong. Actually, yeah, I definitely am on the wrong Google account, so I can't actually look at all my stuff. I do have a few companies already made, but none of them really do this kind of thing. I do have a name of the company that tried to build the bridge, so maybe they're involved.
Right.
This was a company just called Cadwell Steelworks. So perhaps they're mining the coal to, make steel with or something.
Yeah, like Cadwell Mining Co.
Yep. I think that would be, and obviously there's an owner, but he lives in the capital. The owner of the company, obviously, he'd have someone here just doing it for him. Cool. So I think you'd need a doctor. I think there'd be a doctor that would also run sort of an apothecary type thing.
Yeah.
I think there's sort of basic necessities would definitely need to be there. There'd definitely be a blacksmith, making the horseshoes, repairing farmers' tools, repairing the miners' tools.
Right.
Do you think there would be a gun store? Someone selling guns? I mean, it's quite a dangerous place.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, I think that there would be, definitely. I think that, however, that I imagine guns would probably be more expensive out there, because hey, if you're all the way out here and you don't have a gun, I guess you're willing to pay almost any price I have. I'm going to offer these at. Yeah, no, I think that would be good. It'd be really good. And I don't want to, this is just a suggestion, obviously, but and it's very cliche.
Yeah.
But like the mining company like owns like has its fingers in almost everything. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's like you look across the town and I can't. What was the name of the mining company?
Cadwell.
Cadwell. So it'd be like Cadwell's Saloon,
Yeah, yeah.
Cadwell's Gunsmithy, and Blacksmith Shop.
Perhaps there'd be a few that aren't, and then he's trying
Oh yes,
to
right,
wheedle his way in, and that's a bit of conflict. He's trying to buy
right,
out their store.
right. I mean, and that would be normal. I mean, if you look across many civilizations or cultures, you would have someone that had like the money and the power, and they would naturally be the one that would
100%. Yeah.
finance. Oh yeah, sure, I'll back you so that you can start this saloon.
Yeah.
I'll be your silent partner, and maybe the saloon's not called Caldwell's Saloon, but he's like they're like the silent partner.
I had a name for the saloon. Yeah, I have some notes written on paper.
So I am glad to see, Harry, that you prep and make these sorts of things like me. You got half of it electronic. You got some sticky notes over here and some some index cards here and some
I've got a sort of
sheets of paper.
Slowly filling up, very, very slowly filling up big notepad, which I'm slowly filling full of stuff.
Nice.
At the original name, the first name I just wrote down was Last Stop. Although I guess it would be second to the last stop. The last being the bottom of the canyon.
The last friendly stop.
Yeah, the last friendly face. Yeah.
So like the last stop saloon, is that what you're?
So, no, I think it's written on the Google Docs. I think I originally had something like 6-shooter saloon, and I think it went to. I had a drink that I'd named called Snake Venom, because the only drink in the saloon called Snake Venom, and I had some other name for the saloon, but I can't remember now. Oh yeah, my book is slowly filling up with random sketches as well.
Oh, nice.
Of the canyon. It's all changing. It's no longer canon. It's all just sort of slowly changing. Anyway, yeah, I can't find it. So we've got a blacksmith, we've got a doctor, we got a saloon, a gun store, general store, and a sheriff's office with a few cells in it, I imagine. One really important thing: center of town, gallows.
Right.
That's important.
Oh, so we need a judge.
Judge, jury, executioner, the sheriff. Probably the mayor would take that sort of judicial role.
Yep.
I imagine.
Well, we're world building, so we can say, let's say judge is going to be the. I watched this great movie. I think it was a Jimmy Stewart movie. And that's what it was. The guy that owned the saloon was also the mayor and also the judge. Yeah, it was really great, and that's where they had like their hearings.
Yeah, well,
right in the
saloon. Perhaps the mayor is the Cadwell, the worker for Cadwell, who owns. He's in charge of that mining company in this area, and he obviously his boss is Cadwell himself, so he doesn't answer to anyone. Yeah, okay. That sounds cool. So this is really like pretty much Cadwell's town. The only thing that he probably doesn't own is, a few buildings here and there, maybe the general store or the blacksmith or something.
Right.
He just refused to sell. And that's some great, great adventure hooks, plot hooks. So-and-so is pressuring me, I don't want to sell up or something, or maybe you take the side of Cadwell and, I want you guys to pressure this guy to sell, go out and be outlaws or something.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think you can build a lot of adventure hooks just off of just a little bit we've world built around this. And the great thing is when you actually start playing in your world, Harry, your
Yeah,
players will help to give you other hooks based on what
exactly.
they do. So,
Exactly.
um,
All right. What else
so
have we got?
Tombstone sounds like it's coming together.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, just the like, what was it, 10, 15 minutes we've been going?
yep.
It's already coming together. So we got there. We got why the town's there, what they eat, who's there. Um. Oh, okay. Some form of entertainment other than the saloon. Would there be any gambling places, or they just do it in the saloon?
I'm just thinking because of how small the town is, 150-ish
I think it
people,
would all be in
they'd
the
probably
saloon.
all be like centralized to that. I think as the town would get bigger, that's
Mm.
when other natural competition would start
Yeah.
drifting in because then they would want to make money. That's when you'd see other saloons or gambling houses starting
Yeah.
to appear. But for right now, I think it would be pretty central to
So
that. The classic cards and
yeah,
maybe
yeah.
maybe a roulette wheel would probably be their center attraction,
Mm.
something like that.
So what do you like? What gods do you think they'd worship out here?
Hmm.
I think that'd be because there's a lot of Wild West where the themes are, there's a lot of religion in Wild West films. I think that's an important part of getting that sort of theme.
Right, right.
I haven't actually got a pantheon other than one god so
Hmm.
far, but I kind of want it to be a pantheon.
So yeah, I know we're kind of stepping away from world building this town, but
I
just
think those
quickly, if
well building I think the church, the sort of
right,
religious activities of the town, I think is fairly important actually.
right. So I would just kind of maybe limit your pantheon to no more than a dozen
Yeah, yeah.
greater powers, and I would really just don't stat them because you know what they always say: you
Oh no, you
stat
never.
them, you can
They're
kill it,
gods.
right?
They may
Right,
not even be real.
right,
Um,
right.
I'm just
So
thinking the kind of gods that these people would believe in on the frontier when they're trying to survive day to day.
so I guess we got to. So is this a monotheistic society?
Um,
Do they believe in one God, or do they believe in one God, but they also know that there's or believe that there's other gods out there?
yeah,
But I mean, I play a lot of Warhammer Fantasy, and so in the Empire, there's Sigmar is
yeah,
like the number one god in the Empire, but there's also other gods too,
um,
and they kind of show respect for these other
yeah,
gods. But many folks are Sigmarites.
yeah.
I guess or does the culture kind of just worship whichever god is convenient at the time? Like,
Yeah,
I want a
maybe.
good harvest, so I'm going to worship the god of harvest. I want to be prosperous in my mining endeavors. So do I then worship or pray to or offer sacrifice to the god of good fortune or something like that? So I would just kind of hit the higher points on
Yeah,
that. Um, especially if you're going to have like a pantheon of gods rather than limiting it to one.
yeah. I mean, it wouldn't be a large pantheon. I think at the moment I've got one sort of good god, one evil god, um, and that's it at the moment. Maybe there's just one big god, and then there's a few sort of demigods which people occasionally, nod their head to. Um,
So are there tribal people? Would there be tribal
so
people out there, like more like smaller like clans that would kind of live out in
so
these wilds or not?
there are there. I don't want to spoil it too much for you. Yeah, there are definitely tribes of natives living out and about. Um, some may be friendly, some maybe not. Um, They may be, normal humanoids. They may be monstrous. They may be, there's a real mix, I'd say.
So when you talk about a pantheon, maybe have three greater powers that are maybe
Good, bad, and
central to,
neutral, or something like that.
yeah, something like that. And these powers are the ones that are central to the society that is
Yeah,
settling Tombstone, and then you can then introduce other pantheon
yeah,
deities through these like these tribal peoples or whatnot.
yeah.
Um, And I think that that's great because that takes kind of that pressure off you to have like this well flushed out pantheon before things
Yeah. So,
started. You can just keep it
so I
keep
think there
it
would be a
simple.
church to Amara. The name is for the good god. I think there'd definitely be someone who would take on that sort of pastoral role, being a preacher. I think that's a classic part of Western books, Western films. There's always some sort of religious preacher. Um,
Right. And I like the fact that he's good and or
yeah,
they worship this good
we well. You
deity.
may worship a good guy. You may not be good himself.
Right. Right.
Could be just a drunken blackguard who likes to, you know, sleep around and shoot people. But he's still
Well,
still a
there
preacher.
may be some there that yeah, true. Um,
Never know.
so one of the things, when we're talking about religion, one of the things that I really like to do in games is not every cleric of faith is can cast divine magic.
Yeah.
So you would have clergy and whatnot within a
Mm.
faith that so I might be this high priest of this deity, but I may
Mm.
not have any divine casting ability.
Yeah.
I think that that's I think that there's sometimes this belief that all these divine folks or worshipers need to be
Yeah.
divine casters, and
Well,
I
I
think that
think
maybe is like the chosen few of
yeah, definitely.
pantheon.
Your faith has to be pretty strong before you might get gifted powers. I think this place definitely wouldn't have very many magic users for a start, because there's very much with steampunk. There's very much a sort of a class divide. So the very rich will be able to afford, training to be a wizard or whatever. Obviously, there's a few, sorcerers or something that are naturally gifted, but they'd be very rare. So the poor generally wouldn't have access, just couldn't afford it. So unless you're lucky to be born with it, you probably wouldn't be able to afford it. So I don't, maybe just this priest, yeah, he's just a normal guy. I think that I definitely like that. Oh, I'm so glad I'm not showing my screen right now. Can't type. Um, so, let's think about the defense of the town. Are there any? Is it just can you walk straight in? You're muted.
Yeah. I think you would be able to walk. I think you would walk right in.
Yeah, just walk straight in.
You know, um, but I think oftentimes when you think of a Western town or a frontier town, there's usually one or two, maybe three ways that would offer the easiest access to the town, like those main
Yeah,
roads.
just a road.
But I mean, obviously, but I guess I don't know. So are we? So if we're talking Old West, you wouldn't have walls unless there was a fort. So maybe there's a remnant of a fort that was there because you said I think you said earlier that there was there were cavalry, a military unit used to be out there, but they have since long left. So maybe there's this fort that was there. Maybe it's in this kind of this deplorable state right now. Maybe it's
I've put one in the world already.
Yeah.
But it's not super close to the town.
Right.
You'll have to go out and discover where it is, but there is one. Spoilers.
Right.
Not massively spoiled, mind you. It's not really a secret. Yeah, so I think definitely just walk straight in. Just that classic walking down the road. You get people, shutting their shutters. They think, oh, something's going to go down. This new person's in town.
Right. Because they look bad. Look like troublemaker. Yeah. No, I think that sounds great.
So I think that's other than making the NPCs, which I'll do at some point. I think we've gone through the sort of main three things. Why the town's there. How do the people survive, and who's there?
Right. Who and what's there.
Yeah.
That sounds good. And I think over time it'll kind of evolve, and you'll it sounds like you're working on expanding, like what lies outside of this town.
Oh yeah.
If I'm in this town and I've just gotten off the train, I've been there for a few days, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to go out and explore. What would I find? And I think that's
the stuff that I've actually concentrated on.
Yeah.
So I didn't really have much coming into this. I only had the name and a few obvious things that I needed to be there. Other than that, it was all sort of fresh. So I built stuff around it because I thought that's the interesting bit. The town's not, the super interesting bit. It's going out there and delving into dungeons or whatever, fighting monsters, fighting outlaws, that kind of thing, out in the wilderness. That's what Western's about, really.
Well, I mean, obviously, people would come to this town to make their fortune. You're not going to come to this town like, hey, let's go move out here. It looks like it'll be fun. Exactly. You're not going
here
there
when they're desperate.
Yeah, desperate, or maybe they're seeking something more glorious. So, yeah, no, it sounds great.
All right. So I think that's pretty much covered the basics. So yeah, thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you probably in a week's time to probably build something else, because we've got maybe we're doing session 0 on a couple of Fridays time. And the first session will probably be near the end of February, maybe midway through. I know you guys are pretty excited. Carol is messaging, always messaging.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, thanks for joining us, guys. And we'll see you next time.